Overview. 1. Interacting with customer data. Are you drowning in data but don't have enough useful information? Most companies today are encountering big data problems. Big data is the term used to describe all the analytical information collected from digital content. A book on digital marketing would not be complete without a discussion of data. But before you look at specific content measurements, you need to understand the impact technology has had on data and the opportunities and problems it presents. In today's marketplace, data plays a key role in every part of your online business and is critical to your success. The good news is that both small and large companies can collect the data they need to make smart decisions. The bad news is that so much data gets collected that making sense of it can be hard. In this chapter, you look at the types of data that are available to you to gather, and the problems you may run into when trying to harness their value. 2. Uncovering buyer personas. Nothing is more important for you as a digital marketer than understanding your customers. Without such understanding, you can't develop content or make your product indispensable. Enter the use of buyer personas. Marketers have a love-hate relationship with them. They know that they need to create and use them, but they find personas difficult to develop. Creating personas can be tricky. You can't treat them like lifeless customer profiles that are created once and pulled out only for quarterly meetings. Buyer personas represent who your customers are. You have to understand who they are and what they care about. When you create persona documents, you should realize that they change as your company changes. In this chapter, you look at how to develop personas that play a critical role in your content marketing efforts. You also see how to avoid making common mistakes. 3. Structuring the buyer journey. The guidelines for the best customer experience continually change. The only aspect that remains constant is that buyers are empowered and define their own journeys, and you need to accommodate them. Some customers like to check prices on mobile devices in retail stores, others spend hours online collecting information before making a decision. Your job is to make sure that your customer has all the information she needs to choose your product without becoming confused or annoyed. As you begin to create your buyer journey, understand that no book or article can tell you how to map your buyer's exact journey, so don't be frustrated. Your customers are unique and will take the journey that makes sense to them. You can look at what your customers are doing now and extrapolate from that. However, you can't ensure that they will take the path you choose for them. In addition, your business is unique and has its own unique way of delivering your products and services. That's a good thing. But it makes defining the optimal experience for your customers harder. 4. Embracing sales enablement. Sales enablement (SHE) focuses on the processes, tools, and techniques companies use to increase the effectiveness of their sales force and includes marketing automation, digital asset management, CRM systems, and social media monitoring tools. Of course, the idea of creating sales content to improve sales is not new. Companies have struggled with getting their products into the hands of their customers for centuries. In the early 1900s, the Jell-O company had its salespeople distribute free Jell-O recipe cookbooks to customers to show how to use Jell-O with their favorite dishes. It's recorded that more than 15 million cookbooks were distributed in some years, and the sales of Jell-O doubled over time. What is new is the use of the web to assist salespeople in getting the right information to the customer at the right time from anywhere in the world. This chapter looks at the adoption of SHE and the ways in which you can deploy it to help your sales reps hit a home run every time. Let's go for details. Interacting with customer data. Are you drowning in data but don't have enough useful information? Most companies today are encountering big data problems. Big data is the term used to describe all the analytical information collected from digital content. A book on digital marketing would not be complete without a discussion of data. But before you look at specific content measurements, you need to understand the impact technology has had on data and the opportunities and problems it presents. In today's marketplace, data plays a key role in every part of your online business and is critical to your success. The good news is that both small and large companies can collect the data they need to make smart decisions. The bad news is that so much data gets collected that making sense of it can be hard. In this chapter, you look at the types of data that are available to you to gather, and the problems you may run into when trying to harness their value. Understanding big data. Looking at different kinds of big data, marketers have always been able to extract some form of data for marketing efforts. You could get such things as a customer list with locations or a list of purchases by amount. So why is data collection an issue now? The answer is that there is more data now than ever before. Smartphones, social networks, websites, and factories with data sensors on machinery, and more all have data. All of it must be useful, but how to harness its value? To understand some of the basic concepts that underlie big data, you can start by looking at the kind of data you can extract. Table 1:1 shows the model that IBM follows. Table 1:1 types of data. Data types. Description. Examples. Descriptive, who data. Geodemographics, attributes, characteristics. Behavioral, what data. Transactions, payments history, and orders. Interaction, how data. Emails, web clicks, chat transcripts. Attitudinal, why data. Market research, social media. Descriptive data, this is your who data. You analyze it to find out who your customers are. Behavioral data, this is your what data. You analyze it to find out what interactions your customer has had with your company. Interaction data, this is your how data. You analyze it to find out how your customers interact with your company. It helps you understand the reasoning for interacting with your brand. Attitudinal data, this is your why data. It tells you why your customers are interested in your brand. Uncovering the role big data plays in content marketing. When you think about your content, you probably focus on what topic to write about and where you will distribute it. Those are important questions. The way you answer those questions, and many others, is by analyzing your data. When content marketing was in its infancy, many companies flew by the seat of their pants. They believed that they instinctively knew what kind of information their customers wanted. They proceeded to send steady streams of content, only to find that much of it was greeted without enthusiasm. That's when managers decided that big data really did matter. Now they know that they need to use data to tell them how to beat the competition and get customers' attention. There's no time to waste sending content that doesn't hit its mark. Improving your content marketing. So, as a marketer, you want to know how using big data will improve your content marketing efforts. You should be happy to know that it enhances your effort in several ways. It helps you be more effective against your competition. By analyzing a variety of data, you can understand your competitors in ways that you couldn't before. This understanding helps you create content with quality that surpasses that of your competition. Find new ways to compete. New data may allow you to find and explore new business models and niches. This exploration helps you create content that expands your customer base and creates new revenue streams. Zero in on your targeted audience. With more data telling you about channels, you know how and where to communicate with your customers. You can create the content that customers value and distribute it to the places they will look. Interact with your community. By knowing where your customers congregate, you can create a community of like-minded people who will help guide your content marketing efforts by providing feedback. Analyze your wins and losses. By quickly showing you what tactics are succeeding and failing, you can make revisions to content that improve website traffic and customer satisfaction. Using real-time content. Obviously, the desire by marketers to provide customers with exciting real-time content is strong. It's a way to capture attention, and customers have come to expect it. The key to using this content effectively is to keep your customers at the center of all your efforts. Discovering the Internet of Things. Are you curious about the Internet of Things (IoT) and how it relates to data? You're going to hear more about the IoT as time goes on. The IoT is a network of items that communicate their data to people and things without the need for human interaction. Included are such things as sensors in machines, appliances, and electronics. What are examples of how the IoT benefits both business and consumers? Business. In the enterprise space, your factory floor can have machines that tell your managers when they need maintenance or need to have parts replaced. Consumer. As a consumer, you can be alerted when someone comes to your front door or when your appliance is out of warranty. Impacting content marketing. To help you understand how the IoT will affect your customer's experience, here's an example to consider. Your customer can receive your content in a myriad of places. She is no longer confined to gadgets such as her laptop and iPhone. For example, her refrigerator can alert her to problems with food temperature. This capability affects your touchpoints, points of contact between the customer and the company, and the customer journey, and requires you to develop new messages. Following are ways to provide consumers with information and affect their decision-making. Environment and proximity data. You can send consumers your product messages based on factors like location, weather, and product interaction. Retailers, for example, can send targeted messages about what to wear or eat to beat the heat. Location-based information. Another way to use location data is to determine the customer's proximity to the product itself. Companies can guide shoppers to find nearby products and to choose the specific product when they are in the retail store itself. Monitoring data. The product can monitor and send a variety of data from the device itself. An example is a health device that reports current heart rate to the user. Breaking news. Companies can alert users to important announcements and emergencies right from their devices in real time. Such alerts provide a public service as well as benefits to the user. For customer consumption based on the device customers are coming from. Visualizing big data. One of the ways in which companies are coping with the influx of big data is to create visual displays that help them make sense of the data. For example, you've probably seen infographics that attempt to simplify the data. You can also use tools to create dashboards, mock-ups, and simulations. So how do you decide whether your data would lend itself to one of these visualization types? One way is to ask yourself the purpose of your visualization. Jim Stikelether, writing for the Harvard Business Review, laid out 3 reasons to visualize data. Stikelether recommends data visualization for confirmation. If your purpose is to confirm your assumptions, you want to display visuals, possibly on a dashboard, that help you determine whether you are correct. Visualization also helps you to look at how your present model works and whether you need to make changes. Education. If your goal is to educate, you can take one of 2 routes: simply report on your findings, or gather new insights about what you are seeing. Exploration. If your purpose is to explore new relationships and processes, you should create visuals to predict and manage the data. Use this list as a guideline when you are deciding whether visualization will enhance your data. After you understand your purpose for creating visuals, you can help others understand your findings. Uncovering buyer personas. Nothing is more important for you as a digital marketer than understanding your customers. Without such understanding, you can't develop content or make your product indispensable. Enter the use of buyer personas. Marketers have a love-hate relationship with them. They know that they need to create and use them, but they find personas difficult to develop. Creating personas can be tricky. You can't treat them like lifeless customer profiles that are created once and pulled out only for quarterly meetings. Buyer personas represent who your customers are. You have to understand who they are and what they care about. When you create persona documents, you should realize that they change as your company changes. In this chapter, you look at how to develop personas that play a critical role in your content marketing efforts. You also see how to avoid making common mistakes. Taking action to understand your customers. One of the main reasons that personas are hard to create is that you just can't sit quietly in your office and look at data. You need to take action to gather everything you want to know. Here are some actions you need to take. Meet actual customers on a regular basis. Customer feedback is crucial. You need to know what they think, how they view your company, and how and why they use your products. Meeting real customers can be frightening to some. You don't want to say anything that might upset them. But if you can be regularly in touch with some of your clients, you can learn almost everything you need to know about how to make your products better. Dig for special data. You need to look at the data that is currently being collected by your company. Unfortunately, you may not find what you need. For this reason, you must be proactive and request the type of data that you require. Don't assume that it doesn't exist. The more likely scenario is that no one has ever requested it before. Look at content consumption. One key piece of data for every piece of content that you own is what the prospect has done with it. For example, if it's a video, was it watched to the end? More than once? Was it forwarded to a colleague? When you see how the content was consumed, you can get a better handle on whether it hit the mark and how interested the prospect is in receiving more. Review sentiment analysis. What is sentiment data? It's user-generated content about your company and its services. This is also called opinion mining. You can set up a formal system to analyze this data, or if you are working on a smaller scale, you can look at actual customer comments. For example, you may have lots of comments about your customer service on Twitter. If you see that the majority are complaints about how long your company takes to get back to customers, the sentiment is negative. On social platforms, not all publicity is good publicity. Do what you ask your customers to do. This should be a hard and fast rule. You may think it's only tangentially related to content creation, but if so, think again. You and your team should use your websites, landing pages, and blogs in the exact way you ask your customers to use them. Although this seems like common sense, you'd be surprised at how little most marketers know about the actual workings of their own sites. For example, if something is hard to understand, you want to add content right in that spot online that makes it easier. If you haven't used the site, you don't know what you need to add to make it better. Make sure that content creators know your keywords, and keep content creators updated about any revisions you make. It's important that all your content creators know what keywords you're using. It helps them shape the content they create and makes them aware of what you're trying to accomplish. Also make sure to keep them abreast of changes. This may seem like a small detail, but it will help them generate new ideas suited to your audience. Make support people and sales your front line for feedback. When you get your customer service people and sales reps to give you constant feedback, you're giving yourself a competitive advantage. You want to continually create content that solves problems. By knowing what people are struggling with and by providing answers, you are directly affecting customer satisfaction. Talk to all your company stakeholders. The last thing you want to do is miss out on the wisdom that other departments can provide about your customers. Engage them and let them know what you're doing. You will also establish some goodwill around the company by seeking out others' advice. Collecting information. What types of data should you mine to gather information for your personas? The list goes well beyond the usual prescription to conduct one-on-one interviews. If you take the time to collect different types of data, see the upcoming table 2:1, you gain the added insight you need to serve your customers. Trial offers. Product demos. Product evaluations. Research. Brochures and data sheets. Conducting one-on-one interviews with your customers can be the cornerstone of great persona creation. If your company has the time and inclination to approve this activity, don't hesitate to jump in. Meeting and asking your customers for their thoughts and opinions will help solidify your understanding of how your products are bought and used. The wrinkle in your plans may come from other departments, such as sales. Sales may welcome an opportunity to introduce you to customers, or that department may be less than enthusiastic. If you're in a small company without a sales force, this may not be an issue. Marketing and management may be one and the same. Obviously, the best thing to do is to follow the guidelines your company sets. If prohibited from interviewing customers directly, you can still create personas that can be useful by using some of the tools listed previously in Table 2:1. When you're conducting an interview with your customers, you want to ask them questions that will put them at ease and capitalize on their experience with buying and using your product. Make sure to probe for the meaning behind the answers. You also want to make sure that you collect all the pertinent demographic data such as age, job title, income, and other information. You can then move on to questions that pertain to your products. Of course, your specific questions relate. Life goals and personal motivators. Goals for using the product. Things they don't like about the product or your company. People who influence their buying behavior. Triggers that cause them to buy. Where they consume their information and how they find new products. What other products they tried before choosing yours. Documenting your personas. The way you present your personas will go a long way toward getting internal acceptance. If you have a receptive audience, you can use a typical template that includes a name, a picture, and details. If you have a skeptical audience that resists the idea of using personas, you may want to start with a document that doesn't use the word persona and gives a generic style title and no picture. For example, you call it a customer profile and give it a name that reflects their characteristics, such as anxious parent. This would not be your preferred method, but getting acceptance is key to moving forward. Avoiding common mistakes. As mentioned previously, creating personas is not easy. You and your team can make several mistakes along the way. Here are 6 common ones that you can make when creating your buyer personas. Mistaking yourself for the customer. You begin telling your manager or colleague about a solution to your customer's problem. You have researched the data and the marketplace and believe that this information should be added to your persona. Your manager shoots down your idea because he doesn't believe that you're right. He bases his opinion on the fact that it's not how he thinks about the problem. He forgets that he's not the customer. This is a very common problem. People who work closely with products begin to think that they are the customers. In reality, they would never be a purchaser of the product. Listening to what someone's relative thinks is a good idea. Someone's relative has a strong feeling about something, and your colleague is swayed by their opinion and wants to make it part of the persona. But your favorite features should not be based on what your colleague's cousin likes. Forgetting to collect data about the customers who didn't complete their purchase. You can often learn just as much from customers who didn't complete the purchase of your product as you can from those who did. You need to know why your customers abandoned their shopping cart in mid-buy. This is extremely helpful because you want to know where you're falling short and what you can do to plug that leak. This data should be included in persona information. Thinking that understanding the features and benefits that personas prefer is the whole picture. Most product managers love their products. That's a good thing. But customers unknowingly want you to appeal to their emotions. When you don't understand how the product makes them feel, you miss an opportunity to grab their imagination and create a customer for life. Not understanding what entertains your customer. You spend time collecting information, but you don't find out what your customer finds entertaining. If you know more about this, you can create great content pieces that will engage your prospects. You also need to know where they consume information and in what format. Ignoring what people don't like about your product. Obviously, you focus on what they do like so that you can appeal to prospect. But you also want to know what they don't like so that you can fix it and retain customers. Looking at how generations differ. Every generation puts its definitive stamp on society. In this section, you look at 2 groups that have a major impact on your content marketing efforts: Millennials and Generation C. Understanding millennia. Here are some of the study's key findings. A majority of the millennials surveyed favor content that is tailored to their age, location, and cultural interests. 30% don't read content unless it educates or entertains them. 41% abandon content that is too long. 70% share content that makes them laugh. Google and Facebook are the top platforms they use to find content. 50% share content about a cause they believe in. More than 50% prefer to engage with brands on their company websites or social media. So what does this mean for your content efforts if you're targeting millennials? Obviously, they're a discerning group. They want the content they engage with to be age appropriate and to have some intrinsic value. They won't normally sit through long content, but you can catch their attention when you discuss their favorite causes. One interesting finding is that they will engage brands on their websites, not just on social media networks. This is an opportunity for you to beef up content on your website. Identifying a prospect's emotions. The shift in control from marketers to prospects has created a strong need for marketers to figure out what a prospect needs at every stage of the buyer journey. See the next chapter for more about the buyer's journey. One of the things that is central to your investigation of buyer personas is how your customers feel when they buy and use your products. It's imperative to use emotional language in your content, that is, language that evokes feelings. Moods and emotions impact buying habits. People joke about shopping, dubbed retail therapy, as a way to soothe themselves. That's proof that customers are influenced by their feelings. Both B2B customers and B2C customers are influenced by emotions, even though business buyers would like to think otherwise. An awareness of emotions that affect your buyers can help you seek them out in your customers. Here are some common emotions that influence buyers. Fear. You want to know what concerns and fears your customer may have so that when you write your content, you can show how your product would impact that fear. Will it help alleviate it? That's a great motivator to buy. Guilt. Customers don't always buy your product for positive reasons. Sometimes it will be bought to assuage someone or make up for the lack of something. Your content could highlight that emotion. Concerns about status. Of course, this is a big motivator. If you're selling a luxury product, you want to make sure that you tap into the notion that the purchase of your product will elevate a buyer's status. Conversely, if you're aiming at a frugal buyer, you want to ensure that your content targets that mentality. Desire to mitigate risk. Whenever someone makes a purchase, they worry about taking a bad risk. If the product cost is small, the concern is lower, but it's always there. If you can mitigate that risk in some way, such as by adding a money-back guarantee to your content, you can help your customer say yes. Desire for instant gratification. If this motivation is present, your content should focus on it. Every marketer loves an impulse buyer. Fear of missing out, FOMO. This is a relatively new addition, or addiction. People who are plugged into their devices have a fear that if they aren't paying attention to online activity 24/7, they're missing out on what's happening. They want to know about the latest products, trends, events, and gossip. They want to know what their friends are doing and how they themselves compare. To capitalize on this phenomenon, your marketing can provoke users to feel that they have to have your product or risk being left behind. Keeping up with trends. Keeping your eye on trends is an important part of a marketer's job. You want to know what your customers are seeing, hearing, and thinking about in the wider culture. Sometimes trends come in with a huge flourish. Other times, they sneak up on you. Keeping yourself in touch with popular culture helps you know what your customers might want next or what they will reject. Here are a few sources in addition to the listening tools discussed earlier in the chapter, in Deploying Listening Tools, to help you plug into what's happening around you. Structuring the buyer journey. Harnessing the customer experience. In today's marketplace, buyers want to be able to explore information on all their devices from any location. They explore retail stores, the web, print and broadcast outlets, customer events, and so on, and all in a non-linear process. What you need to do is to anticipate the potential contact points and provide content for each one. But even more important than a focus on touchpoints alone is an understanding of the journey your customers take. You need to walk in their shoes to understand their behavior and what they need. This is where your personas come into play. Of course, mapping the journey using a host of procedures, systems, personas, and touchpoints can be complex. But the payoff is worth it. Looking at the customer experience from both sides. When you and your team meet to discuss the ways you're going to interact with your audience, you believe that you know where to engage them. Or do you? A simple purchasing process, ability to track orders in real time, clarity and simplicity of product information across channels, the ability to interact with the company via multiple channels 24/7 for the most part. The differences between the channels executives thought were important and those that customers chose as important were significant. The 5 channels that were the most at odds were search engines. 25% of executives say their company uses search engines to interact with their customers. 69% of the customers say they use this channel. Missed content opportunity. Search engines are most often used in the early stages of the buyer journey. If customers are searching and your content isn't optimized for search engines, you won't even be on their radar. Friends and family. 0% of executives say their company communicates with customers through their family and friends. 51% of customers say they consult family and friends. Missed content opportunity. Obviously, this is a big misstep. Recommendations from trusted friends and family are a big factor when deciding to make a purchase. These executives have made no attempt to reach the customers' influences on social networks. Independent websites. 19% of executives say they use independent websites to interact with customers. 46% of customers say they use these sites. Missed content opportunity. This mistake is a hard one to understand when you think about all the guest posting and cross-promotions available to most marketers. Email. 67% of executives say they use email to interact with customers. 38% of customers say they use this channel. Missed content opportunity. This one requires some understanding of what kind of emails executives are referring to. If executives use personalized emails to send targeted content to buyers, they have a good chance of getting the buyer's attention. Obviously, buyers would have given their email address with the expectation that they would receive emails. If the executives are sending what you would consider spam, that is, content that was neither requested nor desired, these emails would rank very low among customers. Phone. 55% of executives say they use the phone to interact with customers. 24% of customers say they use this channel. Missed content opportunity. Obviously, this is a tactic that should most often be used in the later stages of a buyer journey and only if the buyer has given permission. Cold calling, that is, without permission, just doesn't fit with marketing tactics. Benefiting from an omni-channel approach. One key benefit of mapping your buyer's journey is that it helps you understand where to put your greatest effort. So how do you go about putting your plan together? Start with an omni-channel mindset. This means that you have to think of all the different customer touchpoints as one integrated journey. No more multi-channel approach, instead, all the channels are connected. A multi-channel experience is not the same as an omni-channel experience. You likely already have a presence on several channels. But if the customer experience on all these channels is not consistent and integrated, you aren't an omni-channel marketer. This is rewarding. Want to hear how one savvy marketer is using omni-channel marketing to the fullest? Starbucks has a mobile rewards app that uses omni-channel marketing to its fullest potential. When a user downloads the Starbucks app, he can use it to find stores, redeem reward points, and purchase in-store coffee from the app itself, then pick it up in the store. The user can also view his account from his phone or the web, and it's updated automatically on all his channels. Starbucks understands that helping users uncovering commercial intent. Given all the concepts you have to deal with for the buyer journey, you probably don't want to hear about keywords, too. But it's important to understand how they fit in when you're constructing your buyer's journey. When you think about your keywords, you probably choose ones that provide your users with the information they're looking for. Before you do that, however, you should consider the ones you need when focusing on the buyer journey. The keywords that people use tell you their intent, that is, what they're trying to accomplish. When you create your keyword list, you should consider buyers' commercial intent. That means that you want to focus on keywords people use when they intend to buy things. Against competitors. Closely following your competitors' efforts is key to understanding what your prospects will encounter in their research. If you know that your competitors have provided comparison charts and data sheets, you should do so, too. You want to make sure to do a good job of demonstrating how choosing you is the better option. You need to cover all aspects of the buyer's journey to win the sale. Researching competitors. You've spent time learning about what your competitors are doing. But you can't effectively compete if you don't know what your customers know about your competitors. You want to know what they do well and how they fall short. Your job is to surpass their marketing efforts and win the sale. Your most effective way of winning the sale is to look at your competitors through your customers' eyes. Your customers don't care how much your competitors spend on advertising, syndication, and content creation. All they know is how well their needs are met. In the past, doing competitive analysis was a costly endeavor. Corporate spies, focus groups, and lots of whining and dining of staff went into getting information. Nowadays, you can do a host of things online to understand your competitor's strategy. The information is digital and ready to be scooped up. Here are some things you can do. Analyze your competitor's website. Your staff probably looks at your competition's media properties on a regular basis. And they probably know more than a company's customers do when the competitor redesigns the website or changes product features. You don't want to overdo this analysis. Keeping too close a watch on competitors can prevent you from focusing on your actual customers' desires. One mistake companies make is to try to clone their competitors' site design and approach everything in a similar way. They do this in the mistaken belief that the customer will choose them because their product is simply better. Unfortunately, that's not how people think. They take into account the whole brand experience. Someone may pick your competitor for reasons that have nothing to do with the actual functioning of the product. Remember to tell your customer what's unique about your brand. Buy coffee and get rewards is a smart way to keep the revenue and the coffee flowing. Analyze their content offerings. See the next section for how to analyze competitors' content. You can also use SEMrush and Mozbar, again in the next section, to get competitive data. Download their product specifications and online resources. Obviously, you can go to a company's website and download anything that any user can. The key to doing a good job with competitive research is to focus on what your customers care about. Next, you consider how to analyze competitive content so that you can improve your own. Identifying the stages of the buyer journey to reach your prospects, you need to understand what content they need to purchase your product. Rather than send generic content and hope for the best, you need to create content that targets the buying stages your prospects pass through. Understanding the buying process and journey map. The typical buying process is divided into 3 stages: awareness, consideration, and decision. Because your job is never really done, you may find 2 more useful: purchase satisfaction and ongoing use. If you don't support your customers, you will lose them. Here are the 5 stages of the buyer journey. Awareness: the prospect acknowledges a problem and begins to research a solution. Consideration: the prospect looks at options and competitors and narrows down her choices. Decision: the prospect chooses your product and looks at your specific buying details to determine customer support, shipping, and any other follow-up. Satisfaction: post-purchase, buyers want to feel that they made the right choice, and they want information that confirms that choice. This information can include usage tips and other ways to use the purchase that they didn't know about. Ongoing use: buyers want to feel supported in their continued use of the product and may become advocates if their relationship with the seller is nurtured correctly. So now that you know the stages that buyers pass through, you need to figure out where they go to get the information they need. For this purpose, you create a journey map. Benefiting from the journey map: if you wonder whether creating a journey map is worth the time and effort, think about the fact that it keeps you and your organization focused on the specific needs of your customer. That's critical. Some other key benefits of journey maps are that they help you determine what your priorities should be. You know that you will never meet every customer need, create every piece of desirable content, or always make the sale. There's just an overwhelming amount of work that needs to be done. But you are going to try. To get a handle on your priorities, a journey map shows you the actions that will have the most impact on the customer experience. Get everyone on the same page. A visual map lets everyone know what the goals are and why they exist. Everyone can see how everything fits together, and team members can agree or disagree right up front so that buy-in can be established. Let you see where your customer experience is broken. An interesting thing can happen as you map your buyer journey. You can see where your path breaks down. If you don't have sufficient content for each stage, that lack will become apparent and you can remedy it. Show you what each department needs to do to collaborate effectively with one another. A visual map of the buyer journey helps staff members move out of their silos and collaborate effectively. It's hard to stay isolated when you know what the rest of the team is trying to accomplish. Help you determine the content needed for each stage of the journey. Obviously, you need to match content to each point in the journey. See the next section to find out how. So, what are the key items you want on your journey map? Buyer's stage goal: the possible stages that your customer may go through are in the section Understanding the Buying Process and Journey Map, earlier in this chapter. You can add those to your map if they fit your products. Also include the specific goal statement for your product or service. Persona. If you followed along in Book 1, Chapter 2, which covers creating personas, you have them ready to go. If you haven't created your personas yet, doing so is important because you need to identify on the map the persona you're targeting. Personalizing your content. Forbes magazine has named personalization one of the top trends and said that personalization is not a trend. It is a marketing tsunami. Are you ready for the onslaught? Can you provide the type of personalized experience that your customers expect? Personalizing content is a tricky business. Customers want to have a personalized experience but also want to feel that their privacy is being respected. This is a fine line to walk. But walk it you will, because consumers no longer tolerate content that isn't matched to their needs.